Hi everybody, this is City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's day 17 of Christy's Beautiful Life, 30 Days of Sketches, and Scraptember 2021. Today's sketch is up in the left-hand corner, and I believe that it says the sketch is created by Laura Alberts, and today's Scraptember prompt is sequins. For today's layout, I'm following pretty closely with the sketch. I'm using this photo of my daughter Julia, who has a towel on her head, and just, I don't know, something about her expression made me want to take a picture of her. I'm using a My Mind's Eye collection called Hello Gorgeous. I used this on another layout this month, and I still had it out on my desk when I was ready to tackle this sketch. I started the layout by mounting my photo on some white cardstock. I then put some dark pink pattern paper behind the white cardstock, and then I added a little bit more of the white cardstock. I then cut out 3 rectangles. Each of the rectangles got a little longer and a little thinner as I went along, just like in the sketch. And now I'm using my scissors and I'm distressing the edges of each of the pieces of pattern paper. And I do the same thing to this thin strip of striped paper on the bottom. I also want to include a banner, as there is in the sketch, so I take this strip of the dark pink paper that I used behind the photo and I cut a little fishtail on the end, and then I cut it a little bit shorter. The pink, that dark pink color, it's the most eye-catching color in the collection, which is why I wanted to put it behind the photo, and then I wanted to have a little bit of it somewhere else on the layout, so that's why I chose it for the banner. Now I'm attaching those layers of pattern paper to each other, and then I decided to go for a little bit more distressing. So I feel the best way to do that is to just go in and bend and fold a little bit, and I try to make these extra bends and folds in a way that looks irregular, and it surprises me all the time how hard it is to make the folds and tears look random. I feel that I automatically leave the same amount of space between all of them, so I have to really think about it as I'm doing it to try to make it look like it wasn't done by a person, but it just happened by chance. I covered the back of my photo with some foam. You can see there that I used up a bunch of little scraps that I had in my foam drawer, and I'm assembling the strip that goes along the bottom. And I love this title, A Day in the Life. I have nothing against titles that say awesome and best ever and fantastic. I use those quite a bit. But I really like the idea of having everyday moments captured in scrapbooks. So I like the idea of having a title that kind of acknowledges that some of these moments are just everyday moments, and I feel like those are important to capture as well. So now I'm using some foam to pop up that title, and I just put foam on half of it so that it could rest on top of the photo. And now I'm going to add some fussy cut flowers. One of the things that I absolutely love about this collection is the color scheme, and the other thing that I love is the fact that there are a variety of sizes of flowers, and they're very easy to cut out. Sometimes when I'm fussy cutting flowers from more ornate papers, it's a little hard to figure out where the flowers begin and end and where the background begins and ends. It all kind of runs into each other, but these flowers are very defined, and I just really like them. I like that there's also a variety of sizes of flowers. That always makes the clusters more interesting when there's lots of different sizes. So this is definitely a collection that I find easier to use than some other collections. I know that I'm going to have lots of fussy cut flowers on the layouts that I make with this collection. So you can see here that I'm working on layering a number of those flowers behind the title. And I am using the different sizes and the different colors of flowers. The flowers are mainly pink and different shades of pink. And then there are also some yellow flowers that are a little bit smaller, and I like adding in those yellow touches to the cluster. I also like the way there are some buds. I like that touch as well. And as I was going along, I popped up some of the flowers on foam and some of them I left flat. Now I'm going to add some mixed media to the background. The piece of paper that I have in the background is a piece of paper I've prepared for mixed media. It's 120-pound smooth white cardstock, my favorite, and I've already coated it with some Liquitex white gesso. I'm going to be adding mainly blue to the background. I use some Tattered Angels Glimmer Mists. I'm using Tropical Water and Aquamarine. And later on, I add in Cherry and Summer Glow. That's a pink and a yellow color. But right now, I'm just going to be working on the large areas of color, which are going to be blue. I'm using my favorite packaging technique and smushing that color down onto the cardstock. And now I'm adding some splatters to those areas of color that I made, and also some droplets of water to help lift up some of the color that's on the background. I love the effect that adds, and then I also don't want the background to be too dark, and adding a little bit of water can make the background appear a little lighter as well. Another way to make the background a little bit lighter is to layer some modeling paste over the top, and a little of the footage was not included, but I did use a stencil, a very small flower stencil, and it's called Mini Cherry Blossoms. It's a Crafter's Workshop stencil. I love that stencil. I've been using that a lot too. And now I'm going back in with splatters of yellow and pink, and I just wanted to add a little bit of something to the background other than blue. I add some white splatters, which is another one of my favorite things to add, and again, it lightens up the background a little bit. And the white splatters are just some watered down white acrylic paint. And I use it so often that I have a little bottle that I keep handy so that I can add white splatters without having to mix it up. Not that it takes long, but I just like to have it handy. I use some more of the fun foam or adhesive foam to pop up that whole photo and embellishment cluster. I use some ATG adhesive, and then I attach that down to the background. Next, I'm going to add the cluster in that I created a little earlier. So I attach that down to the background as well. And then I was thinking that since there's so much foam underneath the top of the layout, I wanted something to pop up a little bit on the bottom of the layout. So I put some foam underneath that banner. And then I was thinking that even though I like the background, when I put the pattern papers on the photo and the embellishments on top, it just looked a little too dark. But that's not a problem. So I just took a little bit of the Liquitex white gesso, and I'm using a dry paintbrush. I didn't dip it in water, and I'm dipping it in the gesso, and I'm just dabbing it. I'm not dragging it along the page. Sometimes the gesso can activate the colors, so I just want to dab it a little bit. And I think this works just great for keeping all of the great qualities of watercolor backgrounds or the sprayed backgrounds, but it still helps to tone down the color a little bit so that the background doesn't overpower the photo and the embellishments. I wanted to add more to the cluster on the bottom. I put so many flowers and so many embellishments on the cluster on the top that I wanted to make sure that the layout looked balanced. So I start adding a number of elements to the cluster on the bottom, and I also add a small cluster to the right of the photo as well. And here I'm using a little bit of gesso to hide a pencil line that I drew a little bit too high on the layout. I'm using some Distress Oxide and Barn Door to ink the edges of some of the embellishments on the page. And you can see that I really built up that cluster on the bottom. I added a circle that says hello there. I added some flowers, and I added that old-fashioned phone. I can't believe I'm saying old-fashioned phone. That doesn't seem so old-fashioned to me, but I guess at this point it is kind of old-fashioned. I added the ampersand card and that small doily shape on the right-hand side of the photo, along with one of the little fussy cut flowers. And then I was thinking that it would be kind of nice if the flowers kind of cascaded down the page, so I'm including some small ones under the large cluster on the background. And now I'm adding one of my favorite touches to the layout. I'm using an EK Success scalloped photo corner punch and adding some photo corners to the photo. And I included a contrasting color of blue. I thought that that would show up really well on the photo. I'm inking the edges. And then I also add a little strip of punched out paper that I found in with all of my supplies. I must have punched it out for another layout and then either not used it or not used all of it. And I thought that would look best underneath the photo. And now I'm going back and I'm inking the edges of some things that I forgot to ink the edges of, and I really don't recommend that. I usually make a mess when I do that. It's probably best to try to peel them up off the page if you forget, or just let it go. I wanted to add some yellow to the bottom. I just added that one flower. I guess I could have added more than one flower, but I did want to have some yellow in that lower right-hand cluster. Using a die that I had in my stash, I cut out a number of these, I guess you could call them little branches, and they're very light and airy, but they still add a little bit of white into the clusters. The clusters were mainly pink and some blue and some yellow, and I felt that a little bit of white would help brighten them up. So I'm tucking these into all three clusters. In some cases, I'm leaving them as they are and I'm just tucking them in, and in other cases, I'm cutting them smaller. I love variety. I feel like anytime you can take an embellishment that you are putting on your layout numerous times and you can change the size or just change something about it, I feel that that's really a key to making the layouts interesting. I'm not saying you always have to do that. I'm just saying that that's something that I think about whether or not I can accomplish that. And with die cuts, it's so easy. The leaf die cuts or the branch die cuts, it's easy to make them different sizes. And once I have those die cuts placed where I want them, I go right in with my glue to make sure that I secure them down before they move around. So I attach those at the base. I just put a drop of glue at the base of each of them. And now I'm going to add some pearls to the photo corners. I add some very small pearls to the photo corners, and then I add some more pearls to the punched out strip that's underneath the photo. And as I was watching this, I was thinking, that strip is a little bit too far under the photo. So I went back to my layout after I filmed this and I lowered that strip a little bit. And that border strip does look better a little bit lower on the page. All of the pearls that I have on this sheet here, they're all very small. Some are larger than others. The ones that I put on the photo corners are, I guess by comparison, larger, and then I put smaller pearls on all of the flowers. But I didn't use the same size. If the flower was a little bit bigger, I used a little bit bigger pearl, and if it was smaller, I used a little bit smaller pearl. There are a lot of different sizes of pearls on this sheet, so there were lots of choices. A little earlier on, I added a bow underneath the title. I think that that bow was from a Spellbinders warehouse sale. I'm not 100% sure, but I do like to collect very small bows that are about that size, and I feel that they're a great addition to layouts. I like the way they add a little bit of fabric, and I like when there's different textures on the layout. I'm adding a few more of those pearls to the background, and I use this label from the ephemera pack, and I write the date on it. And it's from quite a while ago. So I'm finally getting some of these older photos scrapbooked. I had to move that yellow flower around, and then I thought the layout was done until a few days ago when I realized that I missed out on adding sequins to the layout. I missed out on the Scraptember prompt, and I think sequins are a perfect addition to this layout. So I was glad that I checked the Scraptember prompt. So I pulled out some pink, mainly pink sequins. I also am going to be using a couple of yellow sequins, and I'm putting the sequins mainly in the places that are shown on the sketch. I like the idea of having them cascading down on the bottom, kind of going along with the flowers, and I like having them on the background, but I also like the idea of some of them mixed in with the clusters. And right now I'm mainly putting them down on the right and the left. I have this We Are Memory Keepers tool that has a sticky end and could help with picking up sequins. If I can, I use my fingers to move them around, and I usually just use that if I can't seem to manipulate them with my fingers. I use 2 different colors of pink sequins and some yellow sequins. I don't have any fancy sequins, so these are just some sequins that I've bought along the way. They're not mixes or anything like that. And now I'm using some glossy accents to attach them down. I haven't had much luck with using gel glue, so I thought I would try out the glossy accents. And that completes this layout. Thank you so much for watching my video, everybody. I really appreciate you watching and liking and subscribing and commenting. I hope that you're getting some ideas from my videos. And if you haven't already, check them out. There are quite a few other scrapbookers who are making videos for 30 Days of Sketches and Scraptember, and you'll find links to their channels in the description box. I hope everybody has an awesome day, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.